Have you ever understood English perfectly, but when it was time to speak, your mouth suddenly froze? Your mind went blank. Your confidence disappeared. You are not alone. Millions of English learners face this same problem every day. And here's the shocking truth. The problem is not your English. The problem is your mouth. Yes, your mouth. If you stay with me until the end of this speech, you will discover why fluent speakers sound natural, why grammar is not the solution, and how you can train your mouth to speak English confidently and fluently starting today. This speech might completely change the way you learn English, so don't leave. Your fluency depends on it. Fluency is a physical skill, not just knowledge, and this is one of the most misunderstood truths about speaking English. Many learners believe that if they memorize enough grammar rules, vocabulary lists, and sentence structures, fluency will automatically appear, but speaking does not work like that. You can know thousands of words, understand complex texts, and still feel completely stuck when it is time to open your mouth. This happens because speaking is not only a mental activity. It is a physical action that involves your mouth, tongue, jaw, breath, and voice working together smoothly. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. You can read books about balance, watch videos, and understand every rule. But until you actually sit on the bicycle and start pedaling, you will not be able to ride. Speaking English is the same. Your brain may understand the language, but if your mouth is not trained to produce English sounds, rhythms, and sentence patterns, fluency will not happen. Knowledge stays silent unless the body learns to act. Your mouth is like a muscle. If you don't use it regularly in English, it becomes slow, tense, and afraid. This is why many learners feel nervous or blocked when speaking. It is not because they are bad at English. It is because their mouth is not familiar with the movements required. Fluent speakers sound confident because their mouths are trained through constant use, not because they are smarter or more talented. Training your mouth means speaking out loud every day, even when you make mistakes. It means repeating simple sentences, practicing sounds, and allowing your voice to become comfortable in English. When you do this consistently, speaking becomes automatic. You stop thinking about grammar, rules, and start focusing on meaning. Your mouth responds naturally, just like it does in your native language. True fluency comes when knowledge and physical practice work together. Grammar and vocabulary are important, but they are only tools. The real progress happens when your mouth learns to move freely, confidently, and without fear. When you train your mouth, fluency is no longer a dream, it becomes a skill you build step by step. Understanding English is often much easier than speaking it, and this gap confuses and frustrates many learners. You may listen to conversations, watch movies, or read articles and clearly understand what is being said, yet when it is your turn to speak, the words do not come out smoothly. This happens because understanding and speaking are two very different processes. Understanding is passive. Your brain receives information and recognizes meaning. Speaking is active. Your brain must create sentences, choose words, control pronunciation, and move the mouth at the same time. When you understand English, your brain has time. It can guess meaning from context, ignore small mistakes, and process information at a comfortable speed. But when you speak, everything must happen instantly. There is no pause button. Your brain feels pressure, and that pressure often causes silence, fear, or confusion. This is why Many learners say, "I know the answer, but I can't say it." Another reason for this gap is translation. Many learners understand English by mentally translating it into their native language. This works for listening and reading, but it fails for speaking. When you try to speak, your brain first creates the idea in your native language, then searches for English words, then checks grammar, and finally tries to pronounce the sentence. By the time this process finishes, the moment to speak has already passed. The solution is not more grammar or more listening alone. The solution is active speaking practice that trains your brain and mouth to work together in real time. You must practice producing English without translation, using simple sentences and familiar words. When you speak regularly, your brain learns faster pathways. It stops overthinking and starts reacting naturally. Fixing this gap requires patience and consistency. Speak even when it feels uncomfortable. Speak even when your sentences are short or imperfect. Over time, understanding and speaking will connect. The words you recognize while listening will become the words you can use while speaking. When that connection is built, English stops feeling locked inside your head and starts flowing freely from your mouth. One of the biggest mistakes English learners make is waiting for perfection before they start speaking. They tell themselves they will speak after improving their grammar, after learning more vocabulary, or after gaining more confidence. This waiting feels safe, but it is actually the main reason progress stops. Fluency does not arrive at the end of learning. It grows during the process of speaking. When learners delay speaking, they delay fluency. The fear of making mistakes controls many learners. They worry about wrong grammar, incorrect pronunciation, or being judged by others. As a result, they choose silence instead of communication, but silence never improves speaking. Mistakes are not a sign of failure, they are evidence of learning. Every fluent speaker you admire once spoke with errors, hesitation, and confusion. The difference is that they continued speaking anyway. Perfection is an unrealistic goal, even for native speakers. Native speakers make mistakes, change sentences midway, and forget words all the time. Communication does not require perfect English. It requires clarity and confidence. When learners chase perfection, they focus too much on rules and forget the purpose of language, which is to share ideas and connect with people. Another problem with waiting is that confidence does not come before speaking. Confidence comes from speaking. You do not become confident and then start talking. You start talking, and confidence slowly develops. Each small conversation, each sentence spoken out loud, reduces fear and builds comfort. The mouth becomes used to English sounds, and the brain becomes used to responding quickly. The fastest way to improve is to accept imperfection and speak now. Use simple words. Use short sentences. Express ideas, not flawless grammar. Over time, accuracy will improve naturally through repetition and exposure. Fluency is not about being perfect. It is about being brave enough to speak. When learners stop waiting and start using English today, progress finally begins. Daily mouth training is one of the most effective ways to build natural fluency in English because it turns speaking into a habit rather than a struggle. Just like physical exercise strengthens the body, regular speaking practice strengthens the muscles and coordination needed for fluent speech. When learners speak only occasionally, their mouths remain tense and unfamiliar with English sounds. But when they speak every day, even for a short time, the mouth begins to move more freely and confidently. Consistency is more important than duration. 10 or 15 minutes of speaking every day is far more powerful than one long session once a week. Daily practice keeps English active in the brain and comfortable in the mouth. Repetition helps sentences flow automatically, reducing the need to think about grammar or pronunciation. Over time, common sentence patterns become natural, just like in your native language. This kind of training also improves rhythm and pronunciation. English has a unique stress and flow, and daily speaking allows learners to internalize these patterns naturally. By reading aloud, repeating sentences, or speaking about daily activities, learners train their ears and mouths together. The voice becomes more relaxed, hesitation decreases, and speech sounds smoother. Another powerful effect of daily mouth training is confidence. Fear disappears through familiarity. When speaking becomes part of your daily routine, English no longer feels foreign or stressful. The brain stops treating it as a performance and starts treating it as a normal form of communication. This mental shift is crucial for fluency. Natural fluency is not created through sudden breakthroughs. It is built through small, repeated actions. Every day you speak, even imperfectly, you are strengthening the connection between your thoughts and your voice. Over time, you stop translating, stop overthinking, and start responding naturally. Daily mouth training turns English from something you study into something you use. With consistency and patience, fluency grows quietly but powerfully until speaking feels easy and natural. Graded speaking is a powerful approach to building fluency because it respects how the human brain learns languages. Many learners try to speak English using complex words and long sentences too early, which creates confusion, fear, and hesitation. When the language level is too difficult, the brain becomes overloaded, and speaking stops completely. Graded speaking solves this problem by starting simple and increasing difficulty gradually. Simple words and short sentences allow the brain to focus on communication instead of correctness. When learners use language that matches their level, they speak more often and with less fear. This frequent use strengthens fluency faster than struggling with advanced structures. Speaking easy English is not a weakness. It is a smart training method. Just like in physical training, you start with light weights before lifting heavy ones. Graded speaking also builds a strong foundation. When basic sentence patterns are repeated many times, they become automatic. The mouth learns how English sentences feel, and the brain learns how ideas are expressed naturally. Once this foundation is strong, adding new vocabulary and more complex structures becomes much easier. Without this base, advanced language feels unstable and stressful. Another advantage of graded speaking is confidence. When learners can express themselves clearly with simple language, they feel successful. This success encourages more speaking, which leads to faster improvement. Confidence grows naturally because communication works, even without perfect grammar or advanced vocabulary. Children learn language this way, and adults can too. No one starts fluent. Fluency grows step by step, level by level. By accepting simple language at the beginning, learners create space for growth. Over time, sentences become longer, vocabulary expands, and fluency deepens. Graded speaking turns English learning into a smooth, manageable journey instead of a frustrating struggle, making fluency achievable for anyone who practices consistently. Thinking in English instead of translating is one of the most important steps toward real fluency. Many learners rely on translation because it feels safe and familiar. They first form a sentence in their native language and then try to convert it into English. While this method may work at the beginning, it quickly becomes a barrier to smooth speaking. Translation slows down the brain and breaks the natural flow of conversation. When you translate, your mind performs several tasks at once. It creates an idea in your native language, searches for English words, checks grammar, and then focuses on pronunciation. This process takes time, and in real conversations, time is limited. As a result, learners hesitate, lose confidence, or forget what they wanted to say. Fluent speakers do not translate. They react directly in English. Thinking in English begins with simplicity. You do not need complex thoughts or perfect sentences. Start with basic ideas and common expressions. When you see an object, name it in English. When you perform an action, describe it using simple English sentences. This trains the brain to connect meaning directly to English words without passing through your native language. Another effective way to think in English is through repetition of natural phrases. When you repeat useful sentences daily, they become automatic. The brain stores them as complete units, not as grammar rules. Later, when a similar situation appears, the sentence comes out naturally. This is how fluent speakers respond quickly without effort. At first, new pathways. With daily practice, these pathways become stronger and faster. Over time, English thoughts appear naturally and translation fades away. When you think in English, speaking becomes easier, faster, and more confident. You stop worrying about correctness and start focusing on meaning. This shift transforms English from a subject you study into a language you live. True fluency begins the moment your thoughts and your words speak the same language. Confidence in speaking English does not come from talent, intelligence, or natural ability. It comes from repetition. Many learners believe that fluent speakers are confident because they are gifted or special, but the truth is much simpler. They have spoken English thousands of times. Repetition turns fear into familiarity, and familiarity creates confidence. When you repeat speaking every day, your brain and mouth become comfortable with English. The first few times you speak, you may feel nervous, slow, or unsure. This is normal. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the result of facing fear repeatedly until it loses its power. Each time you speak, even for a few minutes, you prove to yourself that you can do it. Repetition also reduces overthinking. In the beginning, learners focus on every word, every rule, and every sound. This creates tension and hesitation, but when sentences are repeated often, they become automatic. The brain no longer needs to analyze them, and the mouth produces them naturally. This automatic response is what people recognize as fluency and confidence. Mistakes play an important role in this process. Repeating speech includes repeating mistakes, correcting them, and moving forward. Through repetition, learners notice patterns, improve pronunciation, and adjust grammar naturally. Confidence grows not because mistakes disappear, but because mistakes no longer stop communication. Talent may give a small advantage at the beginning, but repetition always wins in the long run. Anyone who speaks daily will improve. Anyone who avoids speaking will remain stuck, no matter how much they study. Confidence is built sentence by sentence, day by day. When you understand that confidence is trained, not born, fear loses its control. You stop comparing yourself to others and focus on practice. With consistent repetition, English becomes familiar, your voice becomes steady, and confidence becomes a natural part of how you speak. One of the most powerful ideas in learning English fluency is that you do not need expensive courses, special teachers, or complicated systems to start improving today. What you need is a practical method that fits into your daily life and pushes you to use English actively. Fluency grows from action, not from waiting for the perfect resources. When learners realize this, progress becomes faster and more natural. A practical method begins with speaking every day using simple, realistic material. This can include reading short graded texts aloud, repeating useful sentences, or talking about your daily routine. These activities do not require money or special tools. They only require consistency and willingness. When English becomes part of your daily habits, it stops feeling like a subject and starts feeling like a skill. Another important part of a practical method is speaking out loud. Silent learning creates understanding, but sound creates fluency. Your mouth must hear itself speaking English. This trains pronunciation, rhythm, and confidence at the same time. Even talking to yourself is effective because it removes pressure and allows free practice. This method also removes fear. When you practice alone first, mistakes feel safe. Over time, this safety builds confidence, making it easier to speak with others. Step by step, you move from private practice to real conversations without shock or stress. The best method is simple enough to repeat every day. Complex plans often fail because they are difficult to maintain. A practical routine is flexible, realistic, and personal. Even 10 minutes a day can create strong results if done consistently. You can start right now. Speak a sentence. Describe what you see. Repeat a short paragraph. Action creates momentum. When you stop waiting and start practicing today, fluency stops being a future goal and becomes a daily experience.